Good morning and welcome to FMBE Live. It is my very special delight and honour to have amongst my guests this morning a chance to talk to Katie Traxton. Now, Katie is the Chief Communications Officer for Formula E. Formula E, a sport which I guess pretty nearly all of our readers and visitors have great interest in such a progressive sport, such a sport of the moment, such a sport with recently hitting the headlines with a fantastic race at Monaco. Let's meet Katie and bring her in and hear about her background and her involvement in this amazing sponsorship in this amazing race formula. Katie, over to you, Katie Traxton.
Hi, lovely to meet you. Thank you for having me here today. I'm very excited to hear what you've got to ask. I have promised access all areas, so let's see what we can come up with.
Well, that's very welcome and part of the openness that we've begun to associate with this sport, which I think has more of a generational leap and reach as a consequence of that. Yes, Katie, let's hear a little about you first. When we were talking just now before coming on, you said to me that motorsport and motor racing was something which you'd had the privilege of being in touch with at several stages during your life and career. So talk me through that.
That is true. I think, so the story goes, although you might be surprised to hear I don't remember it. The first time I went around a racetrack, my mum was 8 months pregnant. I don't remember watching my first Grand Prix. That was just a kind of staple of life on Sunday afternoons. It kind of wasn't a Sunday if there wasn't a Grand Prix on and I couldn't sit and watch it with my family. And growing up, I spent also many a weekend standing at fences at various British racetracks with my red, it was very important, it was red stopwatch and clipboard. Mobile phones were not a thing at the time, taking split times for my dad while my mum was part of his pit crew. So pretty much, I think motorsport goes right back through my life and probably is somewhere in my blood, but who knows.
And from there, let's leap that forwards a few years into your professional career. The first thing that I know of your professional career from where our lives began to overlap was seeing you as a kind of part of the global brand strategy for Castrol. Perhaps that's a nice point to jump in at and tell us a little bit about being what it's like to be the representative of such a big global brand.
Absolutely. Yeah. So after I left university, I did 5 years in the World Rally Championship and was traveling 150 to 200 days a year. Absolutely amazing. Like money cannot buy the experience that I had, but I also felt that I needed to kind of put down slightly more permanent roots in the UK and be able to see my family and friends again. And then this amazing opportunity came up at Castrol at the same time to join the global marketing team, which was a combination of World Cup football and international motorsport. And the international motorsport part was actually 13 different series across bikes, trucks, and cars, which is pretty unparalleled. And for me, it was a great opportunity because you get to take the kind of enthusiasm you feel for a sport and the kind of adrenaline packed in the middle of a paddock or service park following all the action side, and then actually look at it through a commercial lens and think, how can you still keep the heart of what people love, what makes them cheer on any kind of sport or entertainment, but also, while staying authentic to that, make money for the organization you work for. And fundamentally, you know, in a company like Castrol, part of BP, you also really needed to think about, here is a product which inherently affects the sport. How can you really showcase that this product is making a difference to that entertainment to fans who kind of are generally transfixed or magnetized by the spectacle, but maybe don't necessarily think about what's going on under the bonnet?
Mm-hmm. And actually, we probably haven't got time to talk about nuanced little case studies and the like today, but I will do some put together around this content and make sure that some of that kind of history comes through when we present this. So hopefully down below there'll be some information about your time with Castrol.
Very good.
And equally then well known to FMBE with a move to the agency Fearless, or We Are Fearless, which gave you direct experience of the agency experiential work.
Yes, absolutely. So it was nearly 4 years that I was at We Are Fearless. We obviously were very excited to take to the stage at one of your more recent award ceremonies.
Mm-hmm.
Very exciting. And when I left We Are Fearless, I was one of the 2 managing partners in the agency, but I focused on everything from new business to communications and kind of agency marketing. And it's very interesting. I mean, having the opportunity to be part of an agency that's so young allows you to structure your proposition and what you can offer to the world now, rather than what will happen in future, needing to continually recreate something or retailor yourself to who you're trying to talk to. You can build things fresh based on what the world, what people, what potential fans are reacting to right now. And that was an amazing experience. Also to go from one of the largest multinationals in the world to a tiny agency that I think had under 10 people when I first joined it, gives you a lot of insight as well into how different businesses operate and cultures.
And I think at the awards we celebrated a win for your work with Bridgestone, which brings it back full circuit into that kind of sports arena again, albeit this was Olympics oriented.
Yeah, and I mean, to get to work on the Olympics, my goodness, when I went for my interview at We Are Fearless, they'd just won this massive Olympics account because Bridgestone were a worldwide Olympic partner for the first time. And they'd also decided to activate not just at the time of the Olympics or in the run-up, but throughout the Olympiad, both across the winter and summer games, which is really exciting and not typically what brands do. They also kind of wanted to get into the emotional heart of why we're inspired by Olympians, rather than like trading on what we all love, which are the highs and lows of the games. But obviously we can watch sitting at home on the telly. They really wanted to get under the skin and talk to the athletes and work with the talent, which for me is a passion in terms of work discovery, how you work with talent and influencers.
It's certainly something which brushed off in terms of our judges, but also in my own recollection with a super event I was able to come to, where we interviewed Daley Thompson and talk to him about some of the strategies of Bridgestone, and the close contact with those individuals came across immediately at that event.
Anybody who gets to work with Daley Thompson, do it.
I say the same. He's one of my heroes. So the and brushing shoulders with heroes and people and influencers. Hearing you talk about the kind of that extended communication strategy that you developed through both an understanding of through both Castrol and then Fearless. Brings us on to a chance to now say, here you are now, you've landed this absolutely, been working it for a while, of course, but now in this golden job and a golden epoch for this wonderful brand, Formula E. We understand, I think, a bit about the brand. Everyone feels that sportingly passionate feels like they understand a bit about this brand and what it means to us as individuals, and that's quite an eclectic thing. So how do you anchor that? Tell us about the Formula E brand, and then we'll hopefully hear about the way that message is spread.
Formula E is quite incredible and in many ways unprecedented. And I say that not to be somehow blowing my own trumpet because I'm part of the team, because it's actually what attracted me to become part of the team. The reality is it's a very exciting sport. So when you turn on the TV and you watch the racing, there's a lot of overtaking. There are these amazing city-centered racetracks that the drivers are on. They don't have a huge amount of time to practice on the tracks because we build the tracks ourselves in the weeks coming up to the races, which means that really, you know, they're learning as they go, and this kind of adds to the spectacle. There are various kind of blends of the real and the virtual worlds in the formula of the sport. So things like fan boost and attack mode, which again adds to this slight gamification of it, which I think appeals to younger audiences. I would like to say I know, but I don't count as a younger audience anymore. But behind all of that, there's this purpose which runs much deeper, which is what's so unusual in sport. And Formula E was founded to play a part in counteracting climate change, fundamentally by accelerating the adoption of electric vehicles. And now we talk much more about what the bigger role we can play in terms of sustainable human progress is, because we feel like we're on track to electrification. Like this road to adopting electric vehicles is one where we have sight of a finish line that isn't necessarily near, but everybody is kind of moving in the same direction. So what else can we do in wider areas in terms of more sustainable practice? You know, we're the first sport in history to be net zero carbon from inception. What can we do in terms of inclusivity? How can we generally show that our mindset, it's not about appealing to a fan or an audience, but our mindset is the same as the mindset of the next generation who, yes, want a phenomenal sporting spectacle, but also will not compromise in terms of wanting to leave the world in a better place than they found it, being socially conscious and socially conscientious in everything they do.
So, and that's a really interesting thing, leaving the world in a better place than you found. That's as a sort of bedrock part of a brand for a sports series, is very special territory to be such a significant part, such a significant player in. And we heard recently for FMBE News about how you have tried to extend your message through, or are extending your message through, a group of influencers who hold that one belief in common. In other words, they come from, this is the offset, they're the brand influencers that you see pictured behind me for Formula E. They come at the world from all manner of different angles, don't they? But they have they hold that one core common ground, and probably other common grounds as well, but that one thing is important to all of them.
Absolutely. And I think the thing is, it's about having a cause and knowing what your cause is and then campaigning for it. And we very much believe in being accessible and welcoming and inclusive, which is not necessarily the territory of all sports, but we want to be open to anyone. And thereafter recognize that those people that we're open to don't need to be the same. So something I say a lot, because I genuinely believe it, is that I think each of our differences make us much more interesting than our similarities. So what you see in the offset is you see this group of very diverse people, but as you say, Frank, they have a commonality that they share with Formula E, which is a common belief in what they want to achieve. Now, for us, what's really important is that if you want to work in a real way with influencers, they're not a paid media channel. Yes, there's hashtag ad. Yes, you should pay them because they're content creators, like you would pay a photographer or a videographer or anybody else, but they're not a paid media channel. They're there to be created with. We need to respect their ability to know their community and how to communicate with them. You don't have this kind of one shot and then move on because one influencer is right for this specific campaign. You need a long-term relationship. It has to be substantive. They have to get to know the brand, get under the skin of it. The community will understand then that they genuinely believe in this. And this is how you start to forge these real relationships where by referral, the influencers community will really start to care about what you're doing. And you're much more likely not just to raise awareness as you would through a massive ad campaign, but actually to get engagement, to convert those people to be fans, and ultimately, hopefully, be loyal.
Yes, I mean, so personality ahead of numbers when you're trying to choose somebody to become part of the offset.
Yes. 100%. So we do have what would be called macro influencers who have over 1 million followers, but we also have micro influencers who might have 10 or 20,000. And interestingly, you might see that the person with 20,000 has such devoted followers who read everything they do that they actually convert as many fans to your sport as the macro influencer. With the offset, we are focused on digital first, and we've launched kind of exploring and investigating Instagram, which may extend out to other kind of key influencer channels like YouTube, Twitch, TikTok. But yeah, it's really important for us that people believe the relationship because it is real. So it's good for them to believe that.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely seems to be something that people have learnt rapidly under lockdown, which is this importance of micro influencers. Not to decry the macro, but to say, actually, yes, there are people whose comments that they get underneath their Instagram accounts are delivered by fans with love and meaning, as much as some macro influencers who just have people that wanting to join in on a bandwagon and not really that bothered about what bandwagon they're joining, so long as they're part of the argument. And as I say, that's not to decry macro influencers, but it is to shout the corner for the micro, because I think that comes across really nicely in programs like this, where you've chosen such a great mix of people that have passionate personalities.
And this is the key point, I think, as well, about dialogue, is that historically brands tended to broadcast at prospective customers, consumers, audiences, and however effectively, that was a kind of sales technique. Whereas now, if you, like Formula E, claim that you're a sport that has fan engagement at the heart, that you care about what the fans want, that you want to get them involved, then you have to have dialogue, and you can't shy away from that. And if you are cause driven, there's always going to be an element of polarity. You're never going to be able to tread a middle ground where everybody supports what you do. I would like to think, because I believe that what Formula E is doing is right, that most people eventually will come to be of a mind. But if you polarize people, because some people say that what you're doing is the right thing and other people have another opinion, let them speak. Listen to them. It's very likely that you will learn something from everyone, irrespective of the course you take. And opening the doorway to influencers with highly engaged communities is another way of engaging in that dialogue.
I think it's really interesting. I think that and we will obviously extend links to the offset information once putting this all together. And as I was saying just now, the learnings have been great under lockdown for understanding more of the crossover between genuine communication digitally and the live events in the experiential world. We have some brilliant multifaceted media agencies in my world that have understood this for a very long time, but now there's a kind of chance to shine. And here are you with a broadcastable, narrowcastable product, with digital and television oriented presence, with live events. Obviously, my readers and viewers, a lot of them are interested in live events and the activations and the brand associations that you're able to put together. Formula E is still providing a great platform for those opportunities, I'm assuming. Let's see if I'm right.
Yes, it is. Obviously, COVID is a little bit of a thorn in our side.
For now.
So we're doing a lot in the virtual world. When we first had to suspend season 6, so last season, due to the first lockdown, we immediately launched an esports product, and that has evolved since. I can't claim to be an esports expert, but my understanding is that if you are an esports fan, it's pretty compelling. And I have to say, I think it extends and spans beyond that, because I watched all the shows and I enjoyed them. So I now know 100% more than I used to know about esports. We also, obviously, at races, we want to be hosting talent. We want to have the fan village back. We want to have live experiences. We want to be able to do all sorts of things around COP26 at the end of the year, other key moments in the calendar. We are somewhat limited by COVID, but we have launched a virtual VIP hospitality, a virtual fan experience. We have a virtual media center, which not only is good if journalists can't travel to events, but also when you're about sustainability, that should be an offering you have anyway.
Just before, interestingly for me, just before the very first lockdown back in February last year or so, I had the chance to meet up with the Rocket team and Felipe Massa, who was at the time looking forward to participating in events which didn't take place, but or some that did and some that didn't. But talking and knowing the Rocket brand through those communications, there's a brand that absolutely loves Formula E, absolutely loves the ethos of what you're doing, loves the progression of what you're doing, and presumably, and is very involved with the esports, as I understand it, and presumably will be completely embracing of the events when the opportunities arise, and when those windows open up again, and we start to put COVID a bit more behind us on a global level.
Yes, and we're very lucky with all the partners, with the Formula E partners, with the teams we work with their commercial partners, the host cities, the broadcasters. We're very lucky that they tend to be of a mind with us about our mission. This is the reason you would get involved with Formula E in the first place. Yes, of course, you have the sport. That's fantastic. But also you have this higher purpose. And it's really how the two come together that attracts those brands. And they see this kind of longevity to what we're offering. But it's funny that you should mention the Rocket Venturi team, because we just got back from Monaco. And they are, of course, the only motorsport team in the world headquartered in Monaco, with this phenomenal kind of glass showroom-esque factory in the middle of Monte Carlo. And we just had a spectacular race, their home game. So yeah, I'm sure there's lots of attention on them at the moment.
Oh, don't worry, I shall be angling for an invite from either yourselves or from Rocket for Monaco next year. I can't wait to come and see some Formula E in action myself. I absolutely loved seeing the thrilling highlights and all of the overtaking manoeuvres that took place at Monaco. I understand we've got a few weeks break between events right now, but very much if you haven't seen a Formula E race, then I say get on it and have and make sure you schedule in a race and get to grips with this sport. It's racing away from us before it's be out of reach soon. We want to be hanging on the coattails of it and following its every step. And if you can't do that, find somebody from the offset who will tell you their angle on it. Katie, thank you so much for spending the time talking to FMBE, talking to me this morning. We will hopefully field a couple more questions, maybe to you by email if things come up through the course of the week. But otherwise, I'll allow you to enjoy the very brief respite you have between the very hectic schedule ahead and now. And thank you very much for spending time talking to me this morning.
Thank you for having me.